Ross's wife came immediately to Chatham. Even though it was Christmas week, she could not get him out before the holidays. And the popular choice of destination for the prisoners was either Australia or America. Rossa chose America as he didn't want to be living under the Union Jack. And the leniency of the English was to be seen as the feeling prisoners would not be released until after the Christmas holidays. So on the 5th of January 1871, Rossa signed the patent of pardon, and Rossa was freed. Taken to Chatham railway station, he went from there to Liverpool and then by boat to Cork. There his wife and child met him, and they went off to America on the Cuba, I think, and himself and John Dewey and others, they were known as the Cuba Five. I haven't that list of names now. And he had 12 other children when they went to America. And I suppose, to be fair to say, Ross spent the rest of his time hating the English as he had done already, and he made 3 trips back to Ireland. The first was in 1894 on a lecture tour, and then in 1904 when he unveiled the Maid of Erin monument in Skibbereen, and he was also granted the freedom of Cork City. And he came again in 1905 to take up an appointment with Cork County Council, but returned shortly afterwards due to his wife's ill health. And I suppose he had carried a hatred of the British Army and uniform and any of those who helped the British to run this country. And when those of us who are old enough to remember can recall some very decent and honourable men who had been in the RIC or the British Army, said could not be said for others. And Rossa had a hatred for all things English. And he hated those who were running the country here for the British. And he regarded these as not being Irishmen. And this was also noted by the 1916 volunteers and those of the 1916-21 period. And if we look at the accounts of that period, which are being reprinted on the paper now, we can see where policemen of the DMP branch in Dublin were called in to identify some of the 1916 leaders that were executed. So Rossa was right in his judgment of these fellows. And mentioning 1916, we have a good few commentators now suggesting that those who fought in the First World War in British uniforms were fighting for Irish freedom. They seem to think that because they were out there, they were fighting for Irish freedom, and there's little or no evidence to support that thinking. If you think over the War of Independence, you have the two that we're familiar with in West Cork, and it would be Tom Barry, who had military experience with the British, and Peter Mann, who was killed at Crossbarry, was also a British soldier who had come over to the British Army and joined the volunteers. And there is evidence to the contrary to think that, or to suggest that those who fought in the First World War had no notion or no inclination to fight for Irish freedom. In that time in 1914, Roger Casement had a lot of contacts with the Germans, and he visited a prisoner of war camp in Prussia in Germany. And that prisoner of war camp was home to 2,500 Irish prisoners of war. They were told they'd get their freedom from the prisoner of war camp if they came agreed to come to Ireland and form a battalion to fight for Irish freedom. And alas, just 53 of these fellows volunteered to come to fight for Ireland, and as a result, the battalion was never formed. Rossa was very shrewd in his judgment of these British Army uniforms, that they had no intention of fighting for anybody else but the British. And Rossa also had a hatred of the high walls that we had around the old estates. He said the people inside were treating the natives fairly. There'd be no need of these high walls, and as a result, he had a desperate hatred of these high walls. And he also said that we facilitate the British by calling, say, Castle Freak, which would be Ra and Varry, and Castle Bernard in Bandon should be Koshlani Vahuna, and it was a Normandy castle. But we facilitated the invader by calling it their names. While in America, Rossa spearheaded a bombing campaign against the British seeking Irish independence, and there were volunteers going from here and from England to America to be trained in bomb making, and this caused some confusion and great consternation in England, I suppose, when it was happening. And some of those involved with him were, one was James Murphy from Skibbereen. He was also known as Alfred Whited, or sometimes Whited Murphy, and there's a plaque to him over at a Solace Cross just on the Baltimore Road in Skibbereen. And another one of that time was Richard O'Sullivan Buck, and he's buried in Castle in Kenna, I suppose, and there's a monument to him in Kenna graveyard. At that time, Rossa was engaged in America. He was engaged in many businesses, in journalism. He wrote his recollections and his account of prison life, and wrote many other articles, and produced a book, or a paper, The United Irishman. And in that, he never failed to condemn the British for their tyranny to himself and to the Irish in general, and their unjust treatment and the acquisition of lands from the Irish chiefs. And while he was there in America, he was shot at that stage by an English lady, Yosel Dudley, and she was proved to be insane and sent to a lunatic asylum, but quietly released after a few months. The bullet remained in Ross's body, but it didn't cause any harm. And Rossa kept in touch with those who wished for Irish freedom. He sent £50 to a fund to help his friend Brian Dillon, the Cork Patriot, on his release from prison. And he knew that the British officers could not be trusted. He said that English propagandists could lie like hell, and the Catholic bishops believed that because the Catholic bishops had a hatred of the Fenians. The Bishop of Ross at the time, Bishop O'Hee, refused to hear Ross's confession. And the Bishop of Kerry, Moriarty, is reputed to have said, hell was not hot enough, nor eternity long enough to punish the Fenians. And in a letter from Reverend Dr. McHale in Rome to Reverend J. Reynolds in Longford, read, "Your letter received. Let all unite and prepare for contest. Let no one be intimidated. I am more convinced than ever of the necessity of opposing Fenian candidates. No priest is to sign a new amnesty petition. In connection with the Fenian paper, the Irish people, Dr. Cullen, Archbishop of Dublin, wrote in the pastor that for suppressing that paper, the public authorities deserve the thanks and gratitude of all those who love Ireland, its peace, and its religion." The opposition to the Fenians by the bishops of Ireland had the approval of the Pope at the time, Pius IX. And in spite of the bishop's condemnation, when Ross's coffin was in the Court Cathedral in Dublin and solemn high mass was sung, there were Jesuits, Franciscans, Dominicans, Passionists, Carmelites, Benedictines, and Vincentians in the choir. Before he died, Rossa expressed a wish to be buried in Ireland. So on his death in St. Vincent's Hospital in Staten Island in New York, on the 29th of June 1915, his wife contacted Tom Clark to make arrangements for his burial. And as soon as his death was announced, an English paper, the Daily Telegraph, published what purported to be a cable from its New York correspondent who stated he had a talk with Rossa every day and that was his dying message to the people of England. When I die, you might tell the English people I have fought a good fight according to my views, and long ago lost all hatred, let alone prejudice against the British government. I hope the Irish people will stand united to fight Germany, the common enemy of civilization. Well, Mrs. O'Donovan Rossa knew that this was a total lie, and she wrote to the editor saying that due to her husband's ill health, nobody had the opportunity to interview or speak to him during the last year of his life. She said, my husband, O'Donovan Rossa, was, as he said of himself in the dock, an Irishman since he was born, and I can testify that during his last long illness, he was the same unconquerable Irishman, breathing the same unalterable desire for the absolute freedom of his country and its utter separation from Ireland. And the Cork Weekly Examiner, which was a strong supporter of John Redmond, made the false claim that Ross's support of the Home Rule Bill. Mary Jane issued a statement to show the falsity of the claim by the Examiner, and that O'Donovan Rossa died as he believed, an unrepentant rebel, knowing that Home Rule was no more than a county council, and they could make no laws without the approval of the British government. Now, Rossa is fondly remembered in Ireland, and we have 3 monuments in West Cork. In Rennesquilla, in Roscarbery, and O'Donovan Rossa Park in Skibbereen. And I suppose it's worth noting that the O'Donovan Rossa Park in Skibbereen was unveiled by President Sean T. O'Kelly in 1950, and it was rededicated this past summer by Michael D. Higgins. So it's quite an honour that 2 presidents would come to honour O'Donovan Rossa in Skibbereen. And there's a bridge in Dublin between Wood Quay and Ormond Quay called after Rossa. A street in Cork, there's a street in Skibbereen and Rossa Avenue in Ross, a street in Thurles, Rossa Street in Callagilty, and there are 6 GA clubs named in his honour. O'Donovan Rossa in London, in Maherfeld in Derry, in Belfast, in Ardbow in Tyrone, in Mullagh Brack in Armagh, and in Skibbereen. And Ross's funeral in 1915 and the oration by Patrick Pearse renewed spirits in Ireland and gave inspiration for the struggle that followed. The IRA learned from Rossa that spies and informers could not get a second chance, and this contributed to their success. My grandfather, Daniel Buckley of Buckbrack, was at Ross's funeral. Being a relative, he was issued with a graveside ticket. He was a nephew of Ellen Buckley, Ross's second wife. He and others left the graveyard early to get a train back to Cork, and as a result, they missed Pearse's oration. This was a cause of great regret in later life for him. And the committee that organised Ross's funeral had many of the leading nationalist figures of that time. Most of the 1916 leaders were involved. Looking at the list of names, his funeral in Glasnevin must have been a gathering of the greatest Irishmen of the 20th century. I'll try to get the oration once I do it again. Accorda, na viad bron ene, dan Shasabig and Wakeshaw, a viad wakes a great in our green, the Ian the grass, a cry an Usul Alin Shin, Drinagh O'Donovan Rossa, August, a whole great fadado, on sail shore. It has seemed right that before we leave this place, where we have laid the mortal remains of O'Donovan Rossa, that one among us should, in the name of all, speak the praise of that valiant man, and try to formulate the thought and the hope that are in us as we stand by his graveside. That I, rather than someone else, that I, rather than one of those grey-haired men who are young with him and who share in his labour and his suffering, should speak here, it is perhaps that I could be taken as representing a new generation that has been rebaptised in the Fenian faith and that has accepted the responsibility to carry out the Fenian programme. I propose to you, therefore, that here, by the grave of this unrepentant Fenian, we renew our baptismal vows, that here, by the grave of this unconquered and unconquerable man, we ask of God, each one for himself, such unshakable purpose, such high and gallant courage, such unbreakable strength of soul as belonged to O'Donovan Rossa. We of the Irish Volunteers, and you others who are associated with us in today's task and duty, are bound together and must stand together henceforth in brotherly union for the achievement of the freedom of Ireland. And we know only one definition of freedom. It is Tone's definition, it is Mitchell's definition, and it is Ross's definition. Let no man blaspheme the cause that the dead generations of Ireland served by giving it any other name and definition but their name and their definition. We stand at Ross's grave, not in sadness, but rather in the spirit of exaltation that has been given to us thus to come to so close a communion with that brave and splendid game. Splendid and holy causes are served by men who are themselves splendid and holy. O'Donovan Rossa was splendid in the proud manner of him, splendid in the heroic grace of him, splendid in the Gaelic strength and clarity of him. This man, almost alone in his day, visioned Ireland as we today would surely have her, not free merely, but Gaelic as well, not Gaelic merely, but free as well. In a closer spiritual communion with him now than ever before, or perhaps ever again. In communion of spirit with his comrades, living and dead, and in communion with our own dear comrades who suffer today in English prisons. On their behalf and on our own, we pledge to Ireland our love, to English rule in Ireland our hate. This is a place of peace, sacred to the dead, where men should speak with all charity and with all restraint. But I hold it a Christian thing, as O'Donovan Rossa did, to hate evil, to hate oppression, and to hate untruth, and hating them, to strive to overthrow them. Our foes are strong and wise and wary, but strong and wise and wary as they are, they cannot undo the miracles of God, who ripens in the hearts of young men the seed sown by the men of a former generation, and the seed sown by the men of 65 and 67 are coming to their miraculous ripening today. Rulers and defenders of realms that need to be wary if they would guard against such processes. Life springs from death, and from the graves of patriot men and women spring living nations. The defenders of this realm have worked well in the open and in secret. They think they have pacified Ireland. They think they have purchased half of us and intimidated the other half. They think they have foreseen everything. They think they have accounted for everything. But the fools, the fools, the fools, they have left us our Fenian dead. And while Ireland holds these graves, Ireland unfree shall never be at peace.
Good idea of the date pre-O'Donovan Rossa's funeral.
Yeah, that was a glorious opportunity. The minute the news came, thank God, he said, send home the body immediately, and they knew that the British had banned big gatherings, but they hadn't forgotten about banning funerals, and this was the golden opportunity. And it will, I suppose, the national volunteers and the citizen army and any other groups together, it brought the whole lot together.
The prisoner of war, as they were in Prussia, they fight in 1916. There was a record kept about during the battle on that.
No, because in a little booklet, an introduction to the Bureau of Military History, I got that little gem of information that they had been fighting out in Europe, and I suppose they were held there until the war was over. They were happy inside Ireland to come and fight for Ireland.
That night, Con didn't have Con put the PowerPoint together, but as you can see, I'd say nothing beats passion, nothing beats the oratory ability of someone to tell a story. So I'd say that there's a reason we don't need slides that often, Con, famously, because the passion just comes through and it's fantastic. Especially even the way you opened up there, I think, with Jim and Andy, you know, I mean, it's just fantastic. And then, of course, the oration, or Pierce's oration we heard in Oscar, again, absolutely fantastic. So it's just even for myself as a teacher to show that you don't need all the bright lights of computers and all that to get a story across. So fair play for that. I'd like to thank everyone for coming along tonight. Again, things like this, guys, as I keep reiterating, it doesn't just happen automatically. There's a lot of work goes into it, and to have support like tonight, it just keeps things going. It's fantastic to see people here tonight. We are getting very much closer to our commemoration weekend. We've Sean McCarthy here tonight now, who will be on Friday the 29th, guys, the 29th. Now the programmes the next few weeks, you'll see a lot more advertising going out on the commemoration weekend, but Friday the 29th, I would plead with you, I would advise you just to keep your diaries free for that weekend, but especially as well the Friday the 29th, because what Sean's put together for Reeling in the Years is just a video and pictorial collection of Drinagh's since
1940 to 1990.
1940 to 1990, and I've been privy to little bits and pieces, but there's Drinagh's singers every kind of, I think there's not many people in Drinagh left out anyway, so it proves to be an absolutely fantastic night, so I hope you all come and support that. The rest of the weekend is being finalised, the events have been finalised for the Sunday as well, and we hope to in the future as well have our own unveiling of a statue or commemorative piece to Sean Hurley, in my kind of romantic way of seeing it, to stand on the shoulders of Collins and Maguire and Rossa and these guys as well. So again, these are all things that we can look forward to. So again, I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight, and continued support would be great, that's for the association and for the commemorative weekend, the main bank holiday weekend. So I'd be delighted.